Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect and are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. This show is going to be a continuation of sorts of the show I did yesterday. Also drawn from something that Elder Apostle Tahar was saying as I was watching this video. He said that Israelites are going to look like every nation under the sun, right? And that's true, right? So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Again, it's a continuation of sorts of the show I did yesterday, which I can't remember what I entitled it. I think it's your nationality is your nationality is determined by the seed of man. All right, and so not necessarily how you look or what color you are or what land you were born in, but the man you were born from is what determines your nationality. But as we know, our people have been scattered in all lands, right? We've been in Egypt, we've been in the Parthians' land, the Medes' land, Cappadocia, right, and all the other Greek lands, right, all the way as far east as China and Japan, and all the way as far west as here in the Americas. So when that happens, all right, you're going to get a litany of looks, right, a litany of colors, shades of brown or what have you, and some all the way even looking like so-called white people. All right, so it's never about color, right? It's never about the way a person looks, right? And this is why the scriptures tell us this. I pulled this up just a little while ago. This is 1 John 4:1. It says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of the Most High, because many false prophets are gone out into the world," right? So you try the spirit, right? You ask certain questions, you give them certain scriptures, and you see how they take those things. Some people you meet, you can just tell that they're Israelites, right? But there's going to be cases where you just don't know. You can't really tell by just looking at them and their physical appearance, right? So you have to go by the spirit, right? And like it says in Matthew, which I also have pulled up here, right? It says, "Let the wheat and the tares grow together," right? So I'll go here. This is Matthew 13:30. It says, "Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn," right? So, the angels are going to ultimately be who lets us know who is who, right? But until then, right, we got to try the spirit, right? And again, because of what happened in history, right? Let's go to I don't think I pulled it up, but let's go to where I want to go first. I can use this one. Let's go to James 1. All right, this is James 1:1. It says, "James, a servant of the Most High, and of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting." So James is writing this epistle, right? And through the opening of this epistle, right, one can surmise that he's sending this epistle out with the intention of it getting to all the 12 tribes that are all over the known world, right? Because he says it, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. That's who he is addressing this letter to, right? And if you go to this word scattered, as we do, Let's see. Scattered abroad. You get this word here, diaspora. And so the word in and of itself, right, means a scattering, a dispersion. But when you go here to this first definition, it says of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations, right? Of the Christians scattered abroad among the Gentiles, right? Which, well, I wish we could make amendments here in Blue Letter Bible, but this is saying the same thing, right? Of the Christians scattered abroad amongst the Gentiles is saying the same thing as this. Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. Um, this distinction here is made because of modern Christianity and how they speak of the New Testament, right? But really, what they were talking about when these epistles were being written were Israelites, right? So we know through history that our people were scattered in many different lands. I have ethnos here still. Oh, this is from the last show. I'll keep that open for a second, but let's go here real quick. So now, when you go to Acts the second chapter, right? Um, just to give a little background here, we know that the Israelite men are supposed to go back to Jerusalem 3 times in a year. Pentecost being one of those days, right? And so this was like, it's like to say, like, just like when you like I was going to get ready to say where I live, but um there is a sentiment here, or you get the impression here that there was a lot of people in this area. They were all there in Jerusalem, right, to uh commemorate or to celebrate or to honor the day of Pentecost, right? And so you got the people that lived in Israel, right, who stayed in the land, right? And in this case, as we know through history, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who by this time, were being known as just simply Jews, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And then you had the other tribes and men that may well have been from Judah, Benjamin, or Levi, but they were living in other lands. Or it could have been some of the northern tribe, some of the residual, or let's say the leftovers, if you will, of the northern kingdom that stayed in the so-called east, right? And so all of those people were in Jerusalem at the same time, right? So let me read a little bit of this, right? It says, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance, right? And so this fourth verse serves two purposes, right? So they spoke with other tongues because what they do in Christian church, as far as speaking in tongues, is not really speaking in tongues. Speaking in tongues simply means you're speaking in a different language, right? And the other significance of this is this goes to show you, right? They were speaking in other tongues or in other languages because the people that were Israelites that were scattered in these lands had to understand what they were being taught and being brought back in to the fold, right? Matter of fact, let me stop there for a quick second and go to Ephesians, I think it's 2. I haven't read this in a while. 2 and 11. Yep. This is Ephesians 2 and 11. It says, wherefore, remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time you were without Hamashiach, right? Being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, right? So let's look this up. I don't think I've ever looked up this word aliens, or maybe I have, but just don't recall. To alienate, estrange, right? To be shut out from one's fellowship and intimacy, right? So you got alienate here. So for instance, right, when someone is in the United States of America and they don't have any documentation or any paperwork to prove that they are here legally, what are they called? An illegal alien, right? So let's look up this word "strange" in the Googles. See what that says. Cause someone to be no longer close or affectionate to someone, alienate, right? And this is what happened to the children of Israel, right? They were scattered, they were alienated, right? They were no more close or fellowship and intimacy, right? Because they had what? They had adopted all the other customs. They had adopted uh, the way of life, so to say, of the places where they were made to leave, right? So let's go here. Let's go back to that. It says, wherefore remember that ye being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time ye were without Hamashiach, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, right? So they were taken out of the land, right? They were taken out of the land, and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world. But now in Hamashiach Yahushai, ye who sometimes were afar off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach, right? So this is what they were being taught. They needed to be taught this thing. They needed to be taught these things. And so the Spirit of the Lord was on them to learn the languages of the lands where they were living in, right? And it doesn't take many generations. I was watching Elder Ariala. He did a good show on the I think it was called the chronology of the epistles, and you have this Hellenization that was going on from 164 BCE all the way up to 60 AD, right? So over 200 years of time, this Hellenization was going on, right? And I'm going to show you in just a minute. It don't take it don't take long, man, to change not only the culture of a people, but just even the way they look, right? Because what's going to happen? They're going to start marrying the people of those lands, right? Yeah, as they say in the world, you can't help who you love, right? So you might fall in love with this heathen person, right? You might be working and you might run into a what's this movie I saw, Red Tails. My man was flying the airplane and saw him a flying little piece and went and found her, you know, and got and wanted to be with her, but I think he ends up dying in the movie. But um, he found him a piece. He might be there in war. Like when you go into if you take each of the lands that are mentioned in Acts, the second chapter, which I'll go back to in just a second. But if you take each of those lands that the chapter is describing us going to, and you put it in Google and do a search and say something to the effect of Israelites in, let's say, Cappadocia, or Jews in Cappadocia, and when you write that, a lot of the encyclopedia sites will pop up and tell you how those Israelites got there. Some of them were there for work. Some of them that were there for the military. Some of them were there to rebuild a city, right? But there'd be thousands of them there, right? And so they went to these cities for whatever the reason may have been, and they built a life there. Just like if you from like me, I'm from upstate New York. That's where I was born, and I spent my summers there growing up as a kid. But my parents moved here to Massachusetts, right? And so you learn the lingo of Massachusetts, right? You get I find myself speaking in that ka and ba every once in a while. And most of the time I don't speak like that, again, because I spent my summers in upstate New York. But sometimes I'll catch myself talking like that, right? And so you pick up the lingo, you pick up the dress of the kids in the area, whatever it is, you pick it up, and it doesn't take long, man. I'm one person, right? Not even a generation removed, and look how differently just my speech is based on where I live, right? So it doesn't take much, it doesn't take long, right? So this is why they had to learn, or let me say, be be able to speak in different tongues, because our people were in all of these different lands speaking these different languages, because they had not only started a life but continued a life for generations, right? 200 years. In 200 years, you can have five, six generations happen in that time, maybe even more, right? You say, someone born, you say somebody born, what might have been born, let's say it this way. You might be, let's say 30, and you're a military man, right? And maybe one of the kings or the rulers at the time sent you to Cappadocia, right? And at 30, you might have had a 5-year-old son, right? So that 5-year-old son now is growing up, let's say in Cappadocia, right? That 5-year-old son grows up in Cappadocia. He never learned how to speak his native tongue. His parents don't speak it to him because he's gonna go to school in Cappadocia, right? He's gonna work in Cappadocia when he gets older, right? So his parents don't even speak it to him. Matter of fact, a good example of that, this guy Kobe Bryant, right? He was born here in the Americas in Philadelphia, but I think when he was 4 or 5 years old, his father started playing professional basketball in Italy, right? And so really, Kobe's first language was Italian. That was the first language that he learned how to speak. And that was one generation, right? And you could hear it, like if you watch old videos of Kobe when he was in high school or when he was first coming into the NBA, he had a slur to his speech when he spoke in English, and you can hear it. But when he spoke in Italian, he spoke that thing fluently, man, because that was his first language. When you're 4, like I have young kids, right? So they're speaking English, but it's not good English, right? So if you're 3, 4 years old and you're going to another country, that's the language you learn first. That's your first language, right? And so then you have this guy who's 30 years old, moves to Cappadocia, has this 5-year-old kid, grows up there. The 5-year-old kid, who's an Israelite man, right, then meets this Cappadocian young lady when he's of age and starts a family with her, right? And the father says, no, she's Cappadocian. She's not our people. We're Israelites. And he goes, Dad, I never been over there to that land. And if I have, I can't even remember it. I love this girl. All the dramatics, right? And so he starts a family, and then he has an Israelite son, right? And then that Israelite son grows up, and maybe he moves to another land, right? And gets with a Parthian, right? So it doesn't take long. It takes 1 or 2 generations for your whole family history to be wiped out, man. It doesn't take long. My let me say, my paternal grandfather I never met, right? He was killed, right? And so I don't know none of that family. I don't know none of my dad's side of the family. All my family that I know is from my dad's mother, and that's all the family that I've grown up being close to, which is still my family, obviously, but it's not my paternal lineage, if you will, right? Just from that one person. That's one what one 2 generations. My grandfather, then my dad, then me, right? So we don't know any of that side of the family. Maybe my dad does, but I've never met I've maybe 2 or 3 of my grandfather's cousins I've met throughout my life, but and like again, it doesn't take long, right? That's the point I'm making, right? So let's continue on. I'm rambling a little bit. So verse 5, it says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven, right? So these were Jews, right, who were in Jerusalem, right? And the scripture is describing them as devout men. But where were they? Every nation under heaven, right? Out of every nation under heaven. These are the men we're dealing with. They're Jews, right? But they're men out of every nation under heaven. Okay. It says, now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language, right? So here it is, these Jews, they coming up, they're like, hold on, these dudes that are teaching us this stuff, how they speaking in our language, right? Where we were born, right? And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born, right? Then it goes into again to show those lands where they were born: Parthians, Medes, Elamites, dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia and Egypt and in parts of Libya about Cyrene, strangers at Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our tongue the wonderful works of the Most High, right? So our people were scattered in all of these lands, and not just these lands, right? Matter of fact, let's go to Isaiah 11, I think it is. 11 and 11. Yep. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, right? Which shall be left from Assyria, right? And from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea, right? So our people are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, right? I think there's one more scripture. I read this yesterday. Matter of fact, I think no, this ain't it. But let's go to it. Right. So what's important about Esther? Of course, it's a story of faith, right? And it's a story of a man, which is Mordecai, standing his ground. But I think also what should be noted is how Ahasuerus. It's very specific about Ahasuerus and his rule and how many provinces he ruled over. Right, so let's read that. This is the first verse here. I read this on the last show, but let's read it again. This is Esther 1:1. It says, now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus. This is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India, right, even to Ethiopia, over 170 provinces. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go world map. Right. Let's see what we can get here. Right. He said he ruled from India to Ethiopia, right? Let me see if I can get a bigger one. Get it zoomed in. Let's go to, let's say, Middle East map. That way we can get something a little bit bigger, right? Okay, so this is close enough. So this is India, right? And this is Ethiopia, okay? So what they're saying is Ahasuerus ruled over all of these provinces here, right? Now, of course, there's not 127 here, right? We don't know where one land ended and one land began back in those days, right? But he ruled from this land to this land over here, right? All of these different provinces here, okay? And in those provinces, again, why it's important to note, there were Israelites. The proof of that is in this story, right? When Haman got up in there close to Ahasuerus, it was said that there should be letters written to all 127 provinces that on this specific day that all the Israelites that were in those provinces, in those lands, would be killed, right? So that's a significant part of history, because it just goes to show that even in this time, you already had this let's say presence of Israelite people in other lands, even back in the time of Esther, right? Even so, you had this Babylonian captivity, you had the Assyrian captivity, right, where we were taken out of our land and put in other lands, right, and we started to see the presence of Israel stand in these lands. I had this book some years ago. It was about, it was entitled Jews in Spain, and when you go into the history of the Iberian Peninsula, right, those lands, right, in Spain and in Portugal, were being settled predominantly by Israelite men and women and children, right? Iberia being a derivative of the name Ibar, which is also where we get the word Hebrew from, right? And so you get this Iberian Peninsula, you get this presence in Spain from Israelite men and Israelite women and Israelite children, Israelite families, so to say, right? And now there was also, if my memory serves me correctly, I haven't looked it up in a long time or seen it in a long time, but Iberian Peninsula was considered the second home of Israel, right? But again, I haven't gone into that in a while, so you can do a little bit of digging. I'm sure you'll come across it. But again, our people were in all of these different lands. scattered all over the place, all in everywhere in the world, right? And it's still like that today. So I want to show you these clips. I pulled up some clips in YouTube, but I'm hoping that I don't get flagged. But I wanted to show you this. So this young lady right here, I saw this morning. I was just scrolling through. This young lady right here. I mean, you could kind of see it a little bit, but she's so-called Japanese, right? But she's mixed race. So I think she doesn't say it here, right? But her mom could be an Israelite and her dad could be Japanese, but it's likely that her dad is the one who is the Israelite man. But the point is, right, here it is. This is one generation removed. Matter of fact, I don't even know why I didn't think of my girl there. What's her name? What's her name? Naomi, I think it is. Osaka. There we go. Naomi Osaka, right? Let's do this. And you can kind of see it in her too, right? But you can see both. She is her father is a so-called Haitian, right, which is Levi, of course, and her mother, I think, is I want to say Korean, right? And now, if I'm not mistaken, this young man right here, I forget the I was gonna say nigga, I forget the young man's name, but he's a rapper. I forget his name, but I think they had a baby recently, right? So what you think that baby gonna look like? You look at the two of these people, right? The baby gonna look a mix between them, and you ain't gonna be able to tell what the baby is, right? Because you're gonna have some of that like Asian look to it. You're gonna have some of that Jake look to it, right? But this young lady is an Israelite, right? I think she's Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say she's Japanese. Is she's Japanese and Haitian? Yeah, see, Japan, right? And so she was being interviewed when she had won a major. She was being interviewed, and she was like, "Oh, how do you feel being Japanese?" And she corrected the lady. She's like, "Look, I'm Haitian too, you know." So look, this is Israelite. This is Israelite. But look, this is one generation. One generation. This is one Israelite man, one Japanese woman, right? Or let's say Ammonite woman together made this, right? Imagine that. One generation. So imagine after 200 some odd years what people would look like. That you wouldn't have any trace of Israelite at least the look of an Israelite in those people, especially if they're in that land, right? Yeah, so this young lady was talking about how she gets mistreated in Japan for being mixed race, right? You can see her hair got a little kink in it, right? Same thing. I think there was another young lady. Here these two are, right? All right, they were kind of making a joke. If you're black in Japan, get used to this. So they just were imitating how the Japanese people look at them when they walk by. But you could see that these are Israelite young men, all right? But they still have that look, right? That Japanese look, right? So these two right here, I forget. I think her name is Cora, if I'm not, yeah, Miss Cora, right? So they pop up on my call it, the timeline every once in a while. But she's 100% East Indian or Elamite, right? And he is, as far as he knows, Benjamin. So he starts to talk about it in here. I think his brother did a 23andMe, and he started to figure out some of the places he was from. Let's do this because they wrote it on the top of the screen here. Boom. So this is some of the places he was saying that him and his brother had ancestry from. So Benin is a place in Western Africa where a lot of our people were transported to the Americas from, right? But look, Ghana, right? Benin, Togo, India, Greece, right? These are all places where him and his brother seen some heritage there, right? And if you go to the book of what's this book? I just started reading it again. Not Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. Nature Knows No Color Line by J.A. Rogers. And you go in there and you can see that our people had presence in all of these places, right? But I also went to this one here. So this kid right here in the middle is their oldest son. Now look at him. Right? You look at this guy. He looked like East Indian. He don't even look like his dad, right? Of course, he's gonna have some features here, but he looks like his mother's people, right? This is their oldest child. One generation, one generation, right? And you can't say it's because he got curly hair, because his mom's got curly hair, right? But you look at this kid. I would think he was like Ethiopian. I would think he's like Eritrean, whatever they call it, right? Just looking at this young man, right? But he's an Israelite. That's his daddy right there, right? This is their firstborn son, and they got all kinds of kids. See if we can pull up some of the other ones. Boom, right? Now she looked more closer to her dad, right? Her dad people, but still same thing. You look at her, you don't automatically think that she's Benjamin, right? Let's see. I think they got some of the other kids pulled up here. Now this one looked more like an Israelite, right? He looked more like his father's people, right? See what else they got here. I'm just trying not to get flagged here. Look, this is another one of their kids. Now she got her mom's people look, right? She looked like her daddy, right? But she looked more like her mother's people. You see? This is one generation. This is one generation. This ain't even no you know 200 some odd years of being in a land that you're not from, right? Boom, and that's another one of their kids. He looked like Judah. I'm trying not to. This kid right here. That's another one of their kids. That's her kid, and the one on the other side of her is her kid. This guy looked like he's straight up Jake, right? Benjamin in this case, because his father's from Trinidad, right? But look at her daughter standing behind her, right? Her daughter standing behind her looked like her people, right? There's another one of her daughters look like her people. That might be the same kid. This lady here and this lady here, right? So that's one generation, man. Here go another one of their kids. He looked more like this father's people, right? But it could go either way, right? Another one of their kids, right? Boom, another one of their kids. Oh, this is the same young lady. But she looked like her mother's people. It's just one generation. Just one generation, right? So it's true. Like it doesn't take long for just the way you look to be wiped out, man. It could go either way, right? So our people are gonna look like all those different nations. Matter of fact, and this is what gives some weight to what I want to use. What I want to use. Did I read this? I read this. Let's go to I think it's Revelation 7, where it says let me see. Boom. This is Revelation 7 and 9, and this is what gives this some weight here. It says, "After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands." Now, does this mean all the other nations can make it? No. These are our people that look like every nation that they were a part of. Very simple, man. It's very simple. All right. So with that, hopefully that was edifying. I want to give all praises, of course, to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Bashem Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Honor and salutation to the elect. And with that, I say Shalom.